Why do some traders panic the moment things start going right? Why does a winning streak suddenly feel uncomfortable? Why do people who desperately want success quietly sabotage it the moment it appears? It sounds strange. You would think winning feels good. You would think profits create confidence. You would think success removes fear. But for many traders, the exact opposite happens. The moment they start winning consistently, something shifts inside them. They start closing trades too early. They skip good setups. They overthink every decision. They break the system that was working. And slowly, the account slides back down. Not because they lack skill, not because the strategy stopped working, but because something deeper took control. A hidden psychological force most traders never talk about: the fear of winning. Yes, winning. And until you understand this fear, you may unknowingly destroy the very success you're trying to build. Because the mind doesn't just fear failure, sometimes it fears success even more. Let's break down why. And once you see it, you'll start recognizing patterns everywhere, not just in trading, but in life. 1. The identity problem. Most traders believe their biggest challenge is learning strategy, or technical analysis, or risk management. But the real challenge usually sits somewhere deeper: identity, who you believe you are, and more importantly, who you believe you deserve to be. Human beings build invisible stories about themselves. I'm not good with money. I'm always unlucky. I'm not disciplined. I never follow through. These beliefs might seem harmless, but over time, they become part of identity. And identity is powerful. The brain constantly tries to stay consistent with it. Psychologists call this self-consistency bias. Your mind prefers actions that match your self-image, even if that image is limiting. So what happens when a trader suddenly starts winning? At first, it feels exciting, but then something strange happens. The results start conflicting with the identity. Imagine someone who has spent years telling themselves, "I'm not good enough. I always mess things up." And suddenly, they make a huge profit. Now, their reality contradicts their internal story, and that creates psychological tension. The brain hates this tension, so it tries to resolve it, not by upgrading the identity, but by restoring the old pattern, which often leads to subtle sabotage: closing trades too early, breaking discipline, jumping into random setups, revenge trading, overtrading. It looks like poor decision-making, but underneath, the mind is simply trying to return to what feels familiar, even if familiar means losing. Think about that. For some traders, losing feels psychologically safer than winning, because losing confirms who they already believe they are. Winning forces them to become someone new, and that change feels uncomfortable. 2. The pressure of expectations. Let's say a trader finally hits a breakthrough. They double their account, or they string together several profitable months. At first, it feels incredible, but then a new emotion appears: pressure, because success changes expectations. When you're losing, no one expects much. Mistakes feel normal. Losses feel predictable. But once you start winning, everything changes. Now there's something to protect. Now there's something to maintain. Now the mind starts whispering new fears. What if I can't repeat this? What if it was just luck? What if I lose it all? Psychologists call this impostor syndrome, the feeling that success isn't truly deserved and that eventually you'll be exposed. This is extremely common among traders because markets are uncertain. Even good strategies produce losses, so the trader starts feeling like they're walking on thin ice, and that pressure changes behavior. Instead of executing trades confidently, they hesitate. They second guess, they micromanage positions, they move stop losses, they close winners too early, they avoid taking valid setups. The strange part is, they don't consciously realize they're doing it, but internally, they're trying to avoid the emotional risk of failing after success, because losing after success hurts more than losing at the beginning, and the brain tries to protect itself from that pain. Ironically, that protection often causes the exact outcome they fear. 3. The comfort zone trap. Humans are creatures of familiarity. The brain constantly scans for patterns that feel normal, comfortable, predictable, even if those patterns are harmful. Think about someone who has struggled financially for years, or someone who has always experienced instability. Over time, that instability becomes familiar. It becomes their baseline, their comfort zone. Now, here's the paradox. Comfort zones aren't always comfortable, they're just familiar, which means when life suddenly improves, the brain doesn't automatically celebrate. Sometimes it resists, because improvement means entering unknown territory, and the unknown feels dangerous. This is why some traders experience something strange after a big win. They feel uneasy, not excited, uneasy. The account balance suddenly looks larger than anything they've managed before, and the mind begins whispering questions. Do I deserve this? What if I lose it? What if I can't handle it? And that discomfort triggers subtle behaviors designed to return to the familiar state. Sometimes the trader increases risk. Sometimes they take impulsive trades. Sometimes they abandon their system entirely, not because they want to lose, but because the mind is trying to escape the discomfort of unfamiliar success. It sounds irrational, but human psychology often is. Your brain isn't wired for maximum profit, it's wired for emotional safety, and sometimes safety means staying inside the patterns you already know, even if those patterns keep you stuck. 4. The responsibility of success. There's another hidden layer to the fear of winning: responsibility. Success changes things. It changes how others see you. It changes how you see yourself. And with that change comes pressure. Imagine someone who has always been the learner, the beginner, the struggling trader. That identity carries very little responsibility. Mistakes are expected. Failure is normal. But once success appears, the identity shifts. Now you're no longer the struggling trader. Now you're the one who figured something out, and that creates new expectations from others, from yourself. Suddenly, the stakes feel higher because now you have something to lose, not just money, reputation, confidence, status. This is closely related to loss aversion, a well-known cognitive bias. Psychologists discovered that humans feel the pain of loss much more strongly than the pleasure of gain. In trading terms, losing $10,000 hurts far more than gaining $10,000 feels good. So once a trader reaches a new level, the emotional weight of protecting that level becomes intense, and that pressure triggers strange behavior. Some traders become extremely risk-averse. They stop taking trades. They hesitate constantly. They swing in the opposite direction. They take random trades, almost like they want to get the loss over with. Why? Because the anticipation of losing success feels worse than actually losing it, so the mind tries to resolve the tension quickly. Again, it's not logical, but it's very human. 5. The subconscious loyalty conflict. This is one of the most powerful forces most traders never consider. Humans are deeply social creatures. Our brains evolved inside tribes. Belonging mattered, acceptance meant survival, and rejection meant danger. Even today, the mind still carries that wiring, which means our behavior is heavily influenced by the people around us: family, friends, community. Now, imagine someone growing up in an environment where success was rare, or where wealth was viewed negatively. Maybe they heard things like, money changes people, rich people are greedy, trading is gambling, no one actually wins in the market. These beliefs quietly shape the subconscious, so when a trader starts succeeding, a strange internal conflict appears. On one side, there is the desire for financial freedom, independence, growth. But on the other side, there's a deeper fear, the fear of becoming different, different from friends, different from family, different from the people they grew up with. And the mind begins to wonder, if I succeed, will I still belong? Will people judge me? Will relationships change? Will others resent me? These fears rarely appear consciously, but they influence behavior because the brain values social belonging more than financial success. So sometimes a trader unconsciously limits their progress, just enough to stay within the invisible boundaries of their environment. Not too successful, not too different, still relatable, still safe, still part of the tribe. It's subtle, but powerful. And once you recognize it, you start seeing it everywhere, not just in trading, but in life. Now, here's the important question. If fear of winning exists, how do you overcome it? Because understanding the psychology is only the first step. Awareness alone doesn't fix behavior. The real change happens when you start rewiring how you see success. And that starts with something very simple, redefining what winning actually means. Most traders define winning as a big profit, a perfect trade, a huge account balance. But professional traders see it differently. For them, winning isn't about individual outcomes. It's about process, execution, consistency, following the system. One trade means nothing. 10 trades mean little. But hundreds of disciplined trades, that's where the real edge appears. And when you shift your focus from outcomes to process, something powerful happens. Success stops feeling like a fragile moment you must protect. Instead, it becomes a repeatable behavior, a routine, a skill, something you can control. This shift removes a huge amount of pressure because you're no longer trying to maintain success. You're simply executing your plan, trade by trade, day by day. And ironically, that mindset often leads to the consistency traders were chasing all along. There's another shift that helps break the fear of winning, expanding your identity. Remember earlier we talked about self-consistency bias? Your mind tries to behave in ways that match your identity. So if you still see yourself as a struggling trader, your actions will eventually match that image. But identity isn't fixed, it evolves. And one of the fastest ways to change it is through evidence. Small wins, repeated proof, moments where you follow the system perfectly, moments where discipline wins over impulse, moments where you handle losses calmly. Each of these moments becomes evidence, evidence that you are becoming someone different, someone more disciplined, more consistent, more professional. And as that evidence grows, your identity slowly updates. At that point, winning stops feeling like an accident. It starts feeling like the natural result of who you've become. There's another shift that helps break the fear of winning, expanding your emotional tolerance. Most traders focus on learning how to tolerate losses, but very few practice tolerating success. Yes, success can be emotionally uncomfortable, especially when it's new. So instead of reacting to big wins impulsively, try something different. Pause. Step away from the screen. Let the emotions settle. Allow your mind to adapt to the new reality. This builds emotional capacity. Over time, the account balance stops feeling shocking. Winning stops feeling dangerous. It simply becomes normal. And when success becomes normal, fear loses its power. Here's the truth many professional traders quietly understand. Consistency isn't just a strategy problem, it's an identity problem, a psychology problem, a behavioral problem. Markets are unpredictable, but human patterns are not. The mind will always try to protect itself from emotional discomfort, even if that discomfort comes from success. So the real challenge isn't just learning how to win, it's learning how to handle winning, learning how to stay calm when the account grows, learning how to follow the system even when fear whispers in your ear, learning how to accept success without sabotaging it. And that requires self-awareness, patience, honesty. Because sometimes the biggest obstacle in trading isn't the market, it's the invisible stories running inside your own mind. So the next time you notice something strange, the next time you close a winning trade too early, or hesitate on a perfect setup, or suddenly feel uncomfortable during a profitable streak, pause for a moment. Ask yourself a simple question. Am I afraid of losing or am I afraid of winning? Because that question alone can reveal more about your trading psychology than any indicator ever will. And once you start seeing the patterns, you gain something powerful: choice, the ability to step outside the automatic behavior, the ability to respond differently, to stay disciplined, to let the system play out, to allow success to grow without pulling it back down. Trading mastery doesn't come from predicting markets, it comes from understanding yourself, your fears, your patterns, your hidden beliefs. And once you start mastering those, the market begins to look very different. If this video made you reflect on your own trading behavior, then you're already ahead of most traders, because awareness is where real improvement begins. Stay curious about your psychology, observe your reactions, study your patterns. The traders who succeed long-term aren't just market analysts, they're self-analysts, and that mindset changes everything. If you want more insights into trading psychology, discipline, and the hidden behaviors that shape trading performance, subscribe to the channel. Because the difference between struggling traders and consistent ones often comes down to a few psychological shifts, shifts that most people never take the time to understand. Until next time, watch your mind, because sometimes the biggest risk in trading isn't the market, it's the stories we tell ourselves about success.